I'm a walker. You guys ready to have some fun this morning? Yes. Okay, so one thing I am not is a very serious person. A lot of you in here know that already, right? I have some friends out here today. It's really good. So, I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself and who I am, because it's kind of the basis behind everything that I'm going to tell you today. So, I'm a leader. I chose to be a leader. I own that. And that's what I live. And I don't know how to be anything else. But it wasn't always that way. Let me see if I can make technology work. I get excited when it does, just so you know. Just look up. Yes. Yes, okay, good. I can do this. So, no, seriously, I had a big event on Monday, and none of the technology worked, and so no presentation was shown, and no videos were shown, and I talked nonstop for 4 hours, and I went home and napped for like 2.5 hours, and so be so grateful for the little things like this. So, I'm a leader. I was not always a leader. When I was born with my legs completely turned inward. I could not walk as a toddler. And as my teeth came in, as I started to grow, I had a very extreme overbite, which complemented my extreme underbite. No. So I was one of those little kids that only a mother could really love. Not really true, but that's what it felt like. I figured that the universe knew I was going to turn out okay and that I was going to be a really happy person, because in that overbite were several extra teeth. They knew I would be smiling all the time. Give you extra teeth. That's really, really handy, right? This overachieving started very early in my life. So the reason I tell you this is because every leader that you see has a different story, and not all of us came from where you think we came from. So I remember being that little girl and working very hard on my superpower of invisibility. I did. If you would have asked me, if you wanted any kind of superpower that you could have in the entire imagination, what would you have? I would have been invisible. Kind of breaks my heart to think about it now. And it's not who I am now. But the little girl's still in there. The little girl that we all started out as still exists in all of us. She's a part of us. She always will be. So I wanted to be invisible. And I remember being about 5 years old when we had some friends over, some friends of my mother, and they brought their children, and we were all playing together. And I remember hearing one of the moms say, as she walked by and looked at me, I actually heard her say, "Wow, boy, I sure hope she's smart." I was. But even more importantly, so was my mother. And we didn't play with them anymore. We didn't need to. My mother never made me feel inferior, even if the world tried. Then I went to school. That was fun. No, I got bullied terribly for the first several years while I was wearing leg braces, while my legs were straightening out, while we were taking care of the things that were going on in my mouth and getting that all straightened out. It turned out okay. Yeah? Yeah. Yay, Mom. She fought for those braces. She fought on my behalf. Yes. Yes. But school was tough because being bullied is hard. And it's hard to hang on to a feeling of self-worth. It's hard to hang on to believing that life is going to be okay for you when other people tell you it's not. But my mother never told me that. She saw me as a little superhero. She did. And she taught me a lot about leadership at a very young age. She taught me that leadership comes from within. It's not what other people give you. And most importantly, what she taught me about most was love. And she taught me that great leadership is based in love. And that there's nothing more powerful than love. But see, the word power used to scare me. It made me really, really uncomfortable. Because while I had a really great mom, and she's really, really smart, and she was really loving, and she told me all the right things, I also had a dad who was a Vietnam War vet with untreated PTSD. So home wasn't a safe place to be. He was angry, he was violent, he was loud, he was scary. He was scary. And the only safe place I could find was my mother's lap and in my mother's eyes. But it's important to realize that what we really need in order to be resilient is one person who shows us the way. So she taught me nothing is more powerful than love. But the word power was uncomfortable. Because, see, the leaders that I knew, that I'd read about in school, the ones that hit the media, the people that we learned about, were leaders with power who were not very nice people. So when you said power to me, I thought about the bullies. I thought about loud, big, aggressive people, people who had their own interest in mind. And to me, it meant if you had power, somebody else had to be powerless. And that's what I thought it was. We have a long history of leaders who had power, and they hurt a lot of people. So that's what I thought power was. So how do you grow up to be powerful if you're so afraid of power and when you think that power is a bad thing? When what my mother taught me was that power is an energy. It's not good or evil. It's how you use it. So when you use power to hurt people, it's evil. Would you love him? No, I can do that. No. I didn't want you to look at those mean faces anymore, so I put him up there because we don't need them in the room. So when she really taught me is that power in the hands of love is amazing. It's endless. It's timeless. The leaders who lead with love in their hearts, they're not all women either, which I immediately assumed they would be. But they're not. And they're not all old either. And I think that's important to note. So leading with love, it's powerful, much more powerful than anybody who makes a decision from a place of fear. So, the thing that the loving leaders have in common, the number one thing that I can see is they have courage, because it's not easy. It's not easy to stand up against hate and against fear. But it's imperative that we do. And it's imperative that we know who we are, that we keep our values so grounded and that we know what those are, and that we know what kind of world that we want to live in, and that we're willing to stand up for it and take action for it and not buy into hatred and not buy into fear. But how do we do that? How do we get more courage? Is there anybody in here that would like some more courage? Pretty much daily, sure. Well, we do that by being present in the moment. Mindfulness. Your life is happening right now. Whatever happened yesterday happened. Whatever's going to happen is a guess. Your life is lived right now in this moment, and your courage is found right now in this moment. See, we can plan to be courageous, we can plan to be brave, but then when we get scared, that gets harder to hold on to unless we can get present in the moment and then take one little step. You don't have to run to the finish line in order for it to happen, it's one little step. Made in a very conscious way, very purposeful way, and based in love. So what you want to always ask yourself when you're feeling the need for courage and you're trying to decide, what is it that I'm going to do? And you think about the different options in your mind, weigh them against, is that option based in fear? Am I going to do that because I'm afraid? Am I going to do that because I don't want something else to happen because that thing could be bad? Or am I doing this because I know that this is the right thing? Because I know that I'm doing this from a place of love and giving and generosity and the right thing to do, whether it's for me or for somebody else. And we don't do it alone. Don't do it alone. You don't need to. Look at these amazing women in this room. Look at what Christy's built. I love what you've built. And it's continuing to grow. We don't do this by ourselves. But we have to be careful sometimes of who we bring in, don't we? Not everybody's at the same place at the same time in their evolution of understanding, choosing through the eyes of love instead of the eyes of fear. So you have to know who's on your team. Now, I know that a lot of you have heard, but maybe a few of you haven't, that the 5 people you spend the most time with influence you the most. Now, that can be mental time. It doesn't necessarily have to be time on the clock. It can be mental time. Who do you think about the most? Who is it that's on your mind and in your heart the most? Your top 5 people influence you the most, and those are the people that you influence too. So you have to know who's on your team. So I'm going to share with you a little bit about my team. There's my first team. That's my daughter, and that's my mother. So you see, ugly babies can have very pretty babies later on in life. It was temporary. I got myself a good-looking daughter there. She's an amazing person. And she gave me a reason a long time ago to get better, to feel better, to do more, to be an example, to be somebody that she could follow and that I would know, just like my mother had done for me. And of course, that's my mother, who I just can't say enough about. But I do want to tell you, I have really good news about my mother. My mother just beat breast cancer. Yes. Her very last treatment was last Thursday on her birthday. So we're having a no more cancer treatment party this Saturday. So, also on my team, there's a woman named Lori Wesley. Lori lives in Washington, D.C. She was the vice president of Girl Scouts of America for a long time, and she's a lawyer, and she's very smart, and yada, yada, yada. That's not why she's on my team. She's on my team because she helps me see things in a new way. She pushes me. She stretches me. She calls me on my crap. I love it. And I push her too. I met her in China. So we were both facilitating a women's leadership development course there, and I was there for 6 weeks, and I'm the one that picked her up at the airport and took her back to the university and helped her get settled in China so that she could do the next 6 weeks. And I found myself with a kindred, and we've been dear, dear friends ever since. The 4th person on my team is going to look familiar to you. Melanie Dunlap. I'm sorry. I know. I should have picked another picture. But Melanie keeps me grounded. Melanie's one of those people that I know on my worst day or my best day, she's got my back no matter what. And we all need somebody like that too. And then my fifth teammate shows me unconditional love and makes my house a home. And also on my worst day can look into my eyes and I will know that it's all going to be okay. That's my Sherlock. And the reason that I show him to you is because I want you to know that when you look through in your own life and you figure out where are those 5 teammates, where are those beings that make you want to be better, that make you want to be your best, that make you try a little harder, that make you reach in a little bit deeper and make you be really honest with yourself. whatever that is for you is right. Now, I didn't show this to my husband because he would think he needed to be on the fifth one, and it's fine. Pretend like he's in the background. Because he is really important to me, too. He drove the camper that got us up there into the mountains, so that's good. He's very, and he is on my team. However, when it really came down to only picking 5, come on now. I'm being real. So, I love this picture. It makes me laugh every time. So when you have your team and you know your values and you're really grounded and you're living with love as your guide and you're ready to lead and you're going about your life and you're like, yeah, I can do anything. This is going to work. I got this. And then something goes wrong. Then real life starts to happen again, doesn't it? And no matter what you do, life is a messy experience. And every day is not going to be a stellar day. That's the real experience. So there is no happily ever after. There's real life. And I think that's probably what the Disney princesses really do when the camera's not on anyway. It seemed like an honest picture to me. Because they're not real. They're not real. Some of them are real cute. So, when life becomes life again, and something goes wrong, and maybe there's a tragedy, maybe there's some kind of big challenge that you didn't see coming, and you get triggered, and you feel fear come in, what do you do with it? That makes a big difference too. Do you react to what's going on around you, or do you choose to respond? Now, the screaming woman in our head, she lives in all of our heads. So it's not just you. Don't worry about it if you have her. I know you do, because we all do. We all got one of those. Just don't let her come out of your mouth. And don't let her type on your keyboard. She says bad things that other people will remember. Yes. Whoa. It's okay that she's in there, though. It really is. She's your fear response. And fear is a natural emotion to have. But don't put it in charge. Just recognize when it's there. Now, the respond picture looks just maybe slightly more relaxed than is real. Because if the screaming lady's in my head, I'm probably not going to look exactly like that picture of just, oh, yes, everything is great. No, that's not real. But understanding that everything is how it needs to be at this moment helps you feel that instead and puts you back in the driver's seat and puts you back in the decision-making place in your heart and in your mind so you can stop and decide, what do I want to do with this? How do I want this to end up? And what do I need to do now to move things in that direction? Because it's really about action. This is one of my favorite sayings that I live by all the time, especially if the screaming woman has had more airtime than she should. Don't be upset by the results you didn't get with the work you didn't do. So, if I have not been good at mindfulness, if I have let her sort of take the wheel every now and then, and I'm not getting the results that I really wanted, it's up to me to look at myself and say, well, what have I really done? Have I been spending a lot of time thinking about what I'm going to do, or am I actually in action? Am I doing it? And that makes a huge difference. Who in here is a thinker like me? Oh, I can think something to death. I can. I can spend a long time thinking about something, and I can think about it at least 50 different ways. But nothing happens until you do something. So great leadership. It is about service. It is about serving others. It is based in love. It is about growth, which is action. It is about service to others. When you think back to those slides of those leaders who we're serving from a place of fear, of a place of tyranny, of a place of oppression, or taking something away from somebody else in order to have what they want. They were not serving. And so the legacy that they leave behind is no legacy at all. What they leave behind is damage that we work very hard to undo. That's not a legacy. That's not real leadership. Real leadership serves. Real leadership leaves a legacy. It gives us something to follow. It gives us something to emulate. It gives us something that we want to teach our children. It reaches across generations, and it can reach across the world. See, this is how my mother saw me. It didn't matter what I actually looked like. This is how she saw me. And she helped me to be braver. And she helped me to find my courage. And she helped me to realize that this is who I really was on the inside anyway. You know, it's probably no mistake that when she named me, and she spelled my name Lynda, you know, Lynda Carter's is spelled the same way. Granted, I'm probably not quite young enough to have been named after her, but it was close. I'm going to call it close. But she taught me how to be my own hero. But more importantly, she taught me how to find the hero in other people. Because when we can see that in each other, when we can look into each other's eyes and see that value and see that heart and know that you have superpowers in there, whether you see them or not, we both know they're there. So honor the hero in others. And when you think about that little girl that lives in your heart, dress her up like this. She likes it. So a little more talk about leadership. This is about energy, right? Power is energy. Leadership is about action and energy and where it comes from. Now, this is labeled as masculine and feminine. That is not the same thing as men and women. And that's important to note. There are some amazing male leaders who lead from a really nice balance of both masculine and feminine energy. But the world has been working under masculine leadership energy for a while now. And it's not going so well. We need more feminine energy mixed in. We don't need one over the other. We need a really solid balance between the two. So, the masculine energy that the world has been working under is status. It's I-focused. It's what can that leader get, and the leader is about the leader. It's about competition. It's linear thinking. It's survival of the strongest, right? Bigger, better, faster. I have more weapons than you, so I win. That's not working. It's overt competition. You know who you're competing against in masculine energy. It's very clear. Watch two little boys play on a playground. Not that this is about boys and girls, it's not, but masculine energy. The two little boys playing on a playground, how do they play? I'm faster than you. I'm stronger than you. My dad's bigger than you. They just do that. Little girls, however, you watch them on the playground. And what do they say? Oh, you're wearing pink. I like pink too. I have cookies. Do you want some? Collaboration. Sharing. Now that's how we start. And then we get taught differently. Because why? Because we're living in a masculine energy society, which takes that feminine energy and teaches us to deny it, and teaches us to compete against each other, and teaches us that it's about us, not about we. It's about me, not us. Feminine energy is very communal. It's very we-focused. It's all of us together. There's a power of us being together. There's collaboration, non-linear thinking. Has anybody seen that cartoon about when a man goes to the mall for a pair of pants and it's a straight line into the store and then back out again, and then a woman goes to the mall to buy a pair of pants and it's all over. She goes to every store. She goes and gets a cappuccino, and she goes and she talks to her friends, and then she goes to 3 stores and she finds the best deal and the one that fits her just right, and then she goes home. There's nothing linear about that. It's the world of creativity and possibilities. We're creators. And it's natural. It's also survival of the smartest. Feminine energy is about figuring out solutions that include everybody. And it's got a shadow side. Covert competition. That's when you're in a room and you think you're among friends, and then you find out later somebody was talking about you. It's competition under the radar. That's the shadow side. That's the one that we need to be aware of. That's the one that we need to stop. I do this whole keynote speaking about female rivalry and not tripping the prom queen. Sometimes it's very popular and sometimes it's really not. So it makes it a lot of fun for me because I never know which is going to be. And so it's so exciting. So female energy has a lot to do with belonging. So we have a new leadership that is emerging in the world. I want you to take a look at this slide for just a moment, because every woman that you see on here, every face that you see on here, is a woman leading a country. These aren't women who have made it to the top of a corporation. They've made it to the top of their country. We haven't gotten there yet quite in this country. We're getting closer all the time. But this isn't a new concept. So I was giving a talk at the 70th celebration for the United Nations last Friday night. And one of the things that we talked about was the fact that the United Nations, for the first time, is looking very hard, because the next time that they get their new leader of the United Nations, they want a woman. Yes. More feminine energy, more balance of that energy in leadership. It's what the world needs. And I'm so excited to know that they know that. And they're actively looking for that the new Secretary General of the UN will be a woman. It's exciting, isn't it? So I love Tina Fey because, like I told you, I'm very rarely serious for longer than just a couple of minutes. It's just hard for me to maintain that for very long. And so I love Tina Fey. She's smart and she's funny. And what she says is, whatever the problem, be part of the solution. Don't just sit around raising questions and pointing out obstacles. That's so easy to do, especially in the world of Facebook and social media, where we can all sit in our comfort zones and look at the world and comment on it. But are we commenting or are we doing? There's such a big difference between having an opinion and taking some action, wanting a better world and being willing to step into it, even if you're the first one, which, by the way, you're not. Isn't that good news? There's so many women, and a lot of them are in this room, who are willing to take that risk, who are willing to go forward first, who are willing to be ridiculed, be told no, be pushed out, so that we can come back again and try again. Because we make progress every time. Because this is our world. Do you know that 52% of the world's population is female? Latest statistic, 52%. We're not a minority. 52%. I mean, Angela's really good at math. I'm not, but I know that that's not a minority number. 52%. And together, we can bring more of the feminine energy into leadership, to partner, and to balance, and to make it better. We're all global citizens, every one of us. We're all children of this earth. And all of the people that I've worked with in all of the countries from the people that I've worked with and the places that I've gone and the groups that I've worked with here, this is an example of them behind me. We all want the same thing. We all want to be loved. We all want to give love. We all want to make a difference. And we